Okay, so tonight we're going to be working on common denominators. Our objectives are the same as it has been the last few lessons. We're going to explain why one fraction is equivalent to a different fraction by using visual fraction models, like a drawing or something along those lines, with attention to how the number and size of the parts are different, even though the two fractions themselves are the same size. Use this principle to recognize and generate equivalent fractions. All right, so what is a common denominator? It was one of our vocabulary words. If you need to look back into your notes and find out what a common denominator is. A common denominator, well, let's take a look at what a denominator is. Okay, so a denominator is the number that is on the bottom of a fraction. So if we have a fraction that is 1/2, this right here is the denominator. Nope, not denomination. Denominator. Okay, and what does common mean? If we have things that are in common, common means the same, all right? So a common denominator is the same. So two fractions have a common denominator if the denominator is the same. So 1/2 has a common denominator with, oh, that's not a good example because there's only two. All right, so how about we say 1/4? 1/4 has a common denominator with 3/4 because these two numbers right here are the same. Okay. So that's what we're going to be working on in this lesson, is trying to figure out how to take two fractions. Let's say we have 1/2 and we have 1/4. These are not the same, so they are not common denominators, but we need to find a way to make them the same, or make them have common denominators. Okay, so let's take a look at our first question. Martin has two rectangles that are the same size. One rectangle is cut into half-size parts. The other rectangle is cut into third-size parts. He wants to cut the rectangles so they have the same size parts. How can he cut each rectangle? Okay, now what I want you to do right now is I want you to pause the video and get two pieces of paper. Doesn't matter if they're lined or if they're computer paper, but they need to be two pieces of paper that are the exact same size. So go ahead and pause the video and go get those pieces of paper for me, please. Okay. All right, so you're going to take one of your pieces of paper. So let's pretend Miss Fernley's smartboard are two pieces of paper. We have one piece of paper here, one piece of paper here. Okay. All right, so he wants to cut it into, or he has two rectangles. Okay, papers are rectangles, and one of them is cut in half. So go ahead and take that paper and fold it in half, hot dog style. Okay, and then the other paper is in thirds. Okay, so then you're going to take this paper, not hot dog style, but like we did our brochures for our regions, you're going to fold it into thirds, like that. So it'll look like this. Okay, so now we want to figure out, we have the same size paper, but they're folded into different areas, right? So we want to figure out what would be the same in these two. So how can I fold these pieces of paper that I would have the same number of parts? Let's think about that for a minute. You can try folding your paper. How can you fold these papers to make them the same? Well, I'll give you a hint. This one right here, number 1, is folded hot dog style, right? Lengthwise, so the line's going up and down through the page. And the second piece of paper over here is folded across from left to right. So what if you folded them the exact same? So if you take this number 1 and you fold it in half like that, lengthwise like a hot dog, and then folded it in thirds like you did the other piece of paper, right? And then you'll take paper number 2 and you'll just fold it in half, hot dog style. Now, do we have the exact same lines? Yes, we do. Now we've taken the same piece of paper and we've divided it into equal numbers of parts. So we took my 1/2, this was 1/2, this was 1/3, and now they're the same. However, 1/2 is just this one box here, and then 1/3 would have been this whole box. Let's color it in. Okay, so if I had 1/2, it would have looked like this, right? Oh, sorry. Let's go back. All right. So if I was coloring half of that sheet of paper, it would have been this whole side, right? Okay, so that would have been 1/2. 1/3 would have looked like this. Okay, so that's what it would have looked like if you colored in 1/2 of that paper and 1/3 of the other paper. Now, common denominators are going to say that we need to change that number. So now that I have 6 boxes here, we'll count them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I have 6 boxes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. What is my common denominator then? Good, 6 parts. So the piece of paper, so the answer to the question, he wants to cut the rectangle so they have the same size parts. How can he cut each rectangle? He can cut it into 6 parts, right? And then he will have equal amounts of the rectangle. Okay, there's another way to do that, because you're not always going to have pieces of paper to fold up and play with. All right, so let's take a look at another problem. In this one, we're going to use common multiples. Now remember, multiples are what times a number. Okay, so everything 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. So 2, 4, 6 are all multiples of 2, because 2 can times something to get to that number. So that's common multiples. Okay. All right, so we can take 4/5 and 1/2 as a pair of fractions with common denominators. So I need to take my denominators, that's 5 and 2, okay, 5 and 2, and I want to find the common multiple, and that'll give me a common denominator. So let's just multiply. 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, 5 times 4 is 20, 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, let's do some 2's. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 6 is 12, 2 times 7 is 14. Let's not go any higher than that. All right, we have common multiple here of 10, right? So that means I can take this both of these fractions and make them a denominator of 10. But how do I figure out the rest of the fraction? I know that my denominator's got to be 10, but I got to get from 4 and 1. I can't just leave 4 and 1 by themselves. So I got to go 4/5. Let's get another piece of paper. Okay, so I have 4/5 and I have 1/2. Okay, and I want to make them into 10 size parts. So what did I multiply by here to get to 10? What did I multiply 5 by to get to 10? By 2. Good. And what I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. Good. So 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so an equivalent fraction of 4/5 would be 8/10. Okay. And how would I get from 2 to 10? 2 times what is 10? 5. Good. And what I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. Okay, so an equivalent fraction to 1/2 in parts of 10 would be 5/10. Okay, so let's practice some. Oops, wrong way. All right, let's get some practice in. Let's have 2/3 and and 1/2. 2/3 and 1/2. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is circle my denominators, and those are my multiples, so that's what I want a multiple of. Okay, so 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, let's do some 2s. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so I have a common denominator here. What's my common denominator? Or what's my common multiple in this instance? What is the same? 6. 6 is the same. Okay, so now I want to take my 2/3 and my 1/2, and I want to make them into parts of 6. So I got to figure out what times these numbers got me to here, right? Okay, so 3 times what equals 6? 2. Good. What I do to the top, I've got to do to the, what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, now how do I get from 2 to 6? 2 times what is 6? 3. And what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. Okay, so these would now be my fractions with a common denominator. All right, let's try another one. All right, let's go with 3/5 and 2/4, which is fancy for 1/2. Let's go 3/4. Okay, so first thing I do is circle my denominator. That's going to be my multiples, right? Okay, 5 times 1 is, 5 times 2 is, 5 times 3 is, 5 times 4 is, 5 times 5 is, okay, 4 times 1 is, 4 times 2 is, 4 times 3, 4 times 2 is 2, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is, 4 times 4 is, 4 times 5 is, okay, so my common denominator, or my common multiple, what's my common multiple in these two numbers? 20, good. So I'm going to take my 3/5 and my 3/4, and I want to get them to parts of 20. Hey, 5 times what is 20? 4, good. And what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. That would be 3 times 4 is 12, good. All right, how do I get from 4 to 20? 4 times what is 20? Good, 5. And what I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. 3 times 5 is 15. So those would be my fractions with a common denominator. Okay, we'll do one more together and we'll do some homework problems. All right, what numbers do we want to go with now? Let's go with 3/8 and 2/3. Okay, circle your denominator. Okay, that's what we're going to find multiples of. 8 times 1 is, 8 times 2 is, 8 times 3 is, 8 times 4 is. Just a little quick tip. If you go above this other number right here, you don't have to go very far above that before you can find a common denominator. Because the denominators times each other is always going to be a common denominator. Okay, so let's do 3s. 3 times 1 is, 3 times 2 is, 3 times 3 is, 3 times 4 is, 3 times 5 is? 3 times 6 is? 3 times 7 is? 3 times 8 is? Oops, 24. So what is my common multiple then? 24. Same in both numbers. Okay, so now I'm going to want to take my 3/8 and my 2/3 and make them into parts of 24. Okay, how do I get from 8 to 24? 8 times what is 24? 3. And what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now down here, 3 times what gets me to 24? 8. And what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. 2 times 8 is 16. So these would be fractions with the common denominator. All right, let's take a look at our homework. All right, so let's see, do I have another piece of paper? Good, I have a blank piece of paper. Let's go dual screen. All right. Let's do number 3 together and number 5 together. All right, number 3. We got 3/10, 1/2. Okay, circle the denominator. Okay, get your multiples. 10 times 1 is? 10 times 2 is? 10 times 3 is? Okay, remember I don't have to go above 2 if I don't want to. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12. I can stop there, right? Because I have something that's in common. I have 10 and 10. Good. So I'm going to take my 3/10. And I'm going to take my 1/2. Oops. 1/2. I need more room there. And I'm going to make them to tenths. Okay. 10 times what gets me to 10? 1. Good. And what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. So this didn't change, right? This one stayed the same. Okay. 2 times what gets me to 10? 5. Good. What I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. Okay, so my answers would be 3/10 and 5/10. All right, number 5, we have 2/4 and 7/8. Okay, circle your denominator and do your multiples. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. I don't have to go above 8. I'm a liar. 4 times 4 is 16. I could keep going. What is 8? 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, but do I already have a common denominator? Common multiple? Yes, I do. Okay, so 2/4, 7/8. We want to make to 8. This one is going to stay the same, right? Just like up there. But this one's not. It's going to have to change. 4 times what is 8? 2. Good. So what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. Okay, so these would be my answers. 4/8 and 7/8. All right. So equivalent fractions, I'm going to refresh your memory. You can do these finding common denominators, which I'm going to show you a couple of common denominators. And then I'm going to show you the trick and how to check them. Okay, so we'll do 8 and 14 and 11. Okay, so I can't see that. 1/2. Yeah. So we have 1/2 and 2/5. Okay, so using common denominators, you would make them have common denominators, and then you would just see which one's more. So if I had common denominators, circle the denominators. Okay, 2 times 1 is, 2 times 2 is, 2 times 3 is, 2 times 4 is, 2 times 5 is, okay, I don't need to go above that. 5 times 1 is, 5 times 2 is, and I don't need to go any further than that, right? All right, so I have common denominators, or common multiples, I'm sorry. And I want to make them to tenths. So I have 10. All right, 2 times what gets me to 10? 5. And what I do to the bottom, got to do to the top. So it'll be 5 tenths. Okay. What times 5 gets me to 10? 2. What I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. And that would be 4. So 5 tenths and 4 tenths. So which one's bigger? 5 tenths or 4 tenths? 5 tenths is bigger than 4 tenths. So 1/2 is bigger than 2/5. Okay. All right, let's check that though. We have 1/2. We have 2/5. Remember Miss Friendly taught you the butterfly method, or we went over it briefly? Okay. Looks like a butterfly, right? All right. So 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 is bigger than 4. So therefore, 1/2 is bigger than 2/5. Okay. All right. We have 6 tenths. Why didn't this really cover everything? 6 tenths and 3/5. Okay, circle your denominator. And we're going to find multiples. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 is 30. Do you think I have to go any further, or do you think I might have a common multiple already? Let's do some 5s and see. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Oh, there's 1, right? Okay, let's circle our common multiple. So we're going to put these fractions into tens. So I have 6 tenths. We already have that in tenths, so we don't really have to change anything. And we want to take 3/5 and make it into tenths. Okay, what times 5 gets me to 10? 2. Good. What I do to the bottom, do to the top. All right, so we have 6 tenths and 6 tenths. So we have equal, right? It is equal. Let's double check with the butterfly method. 6 tenths and 3/5. Circle, butterfly. Okay, 6 times 5 is 30. 10 times 3 is 30. They are equal. Okay, last one. 2 tenths and 4/5. I want to do something different. I don't want to do tenths anymore, so we're going to do number 15. 1/4 and 3/12. I don't like that one either. Let's do 13. 3/4 and 2/3. Okay, circle your denominator. Okay, let's do multiples. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, common multiple is my 12. So we're going to take 3/4 and 2/3 and make it into 12. All right, where was I? To 12. Okay, 4 times what can get me to 12? Good, 3. And what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Okay, so it'd be 9/12. And 3 times what can get me to 12? 4. And what do I do to the bottom? I gotta do to the top. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so which is bigger? I have 9 and I have 8. Okay, 9 is bigger. Therefore, 3/4 is bigger. Okay, we can double check that with the butterfly method. 3/4 and 2/3. Circle. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 2 is 8. 9 is bigger than 8, so this is the bigger number. All right, WSQ. Hayes worked on his science fair project for 1/4 of an hour on Friday and 1/2 an hour on Saturday. What are 4 common denominators for the fraction? Okay, so that means you're going to list out your common multiple, and you need to find 4 common. Okay, so you should have 4 circles. Once you do your multiples here, so circle your denominator, do your multiples, you should have 4 of them circled, 4 of them the same. All right, we will see you tomorrow morning.